The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent or of the River District Association. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the True North Speaker Series. We started season 2, episode 2 with none other than Natalie Hodge. Hey, welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you.
I'm very nervous. We got a professional in the house, so I'm trying to keep my composure and be in the midst of the famous Miss Natalie.
Well, we're twinning.
Yeah. Yes, we are already.
We're already doing it.
Energy connected, and we know how important that is. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
So, to kick us off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Natalie Hodge?
I am a writer. I'm a producer. I'm a transformation coach. I'm a community member who believes in positive change. I'm a wife. I am the mother of many beautiful plants. And I own Rudy's Girl Media.
Yeah.
Based in Martinsville, Virginia.
So I'm going to get off script and not really go to the questions.
I knew you were going to know this to me after I reviewed these questions. Carry on.
But just to jump right into it, when you name off all of that, because I think that's one thing that's very important, you automatically brought in balance. Because a lot of people that I've interviewed or even talked to, when I say who is, they begin to give either the professional side or like the homebody side. Very seldom they balance both. So just off gate, what does balance look like for you in all that you do?
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I understand that there are moments in my professional journey specifically where I can do too much.
Right.
It's all for the sake of moving the work forward. And I get laser focused on this is my task list. This is the vision for what I want to do. And I can run it around the clock. I know that that's not healthy for a long-term situation.
Right.
So this is where my husband really plays an important role in my life because he believes in get up, do yoga, go for a walk, bike during the day. Like he's doing all of these things to keep himself in a balanced place. And I usually try to fit those things in the crevices elsewhere.
And it's your nature, because like I said, nobody that I can remember from Gate brought in both. They would say one or the other, unless I directly asked that question. Then they was like, oh, this is what balance is. But you the first person from the beginning talked about, I'm this person, and this person, and this person, not one or the other. And I think you have created as a natural being. So I just want to give you props for that. But tell us where all of that fire come from.
Definitely my family.
Okay.
So I have a very spicy mom. She's a retired music teacher. And even though I feel like she's had this amazing personal evolution, she was more soft-spoken, I think, when I was younger. Now she is the life of the party. And but what she did for me as I was growing up was she was always about making sure I had experiences, making sure that I was signed up for Piedmont Arts Enrichment Camp. Sometimes I would find camps that I wanted to go to, and she was like, but she encouraged that, even though it was a little scary when I would go to camps that were out of the community. She really supported me doing things and being involved, and she pushed me to be a public speaker when I was younger. I was always in the Sunday school Christmas play. I was always in the 4-H speaking competitions. Like, those are things that in certain moments I didn't really value.
Yeah.
But later in life, I'm like, oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad's side of the family, entrepreneurs, out of the box thinkers. My dad ran our family's convenience store when I was growing up. And so I would be there as the assistant manager. And I got to learn from him. It's a little country store in Leatherwood. And so there wasn't a lot going on all the time, but I absorbed a lot of lessons about how you treat people, how you create something out of nothing, because every weekend that I came to visit with him at the store, he had something new he was doing. He might be selling used cars.
Yeah.
He might have a new snack thing that he's rolled out. It just was always something to try to keep the doors open for the business. And I love the balance between my mom's kind of structure and my dad's hustle.
Yeah.
That was a good mix for me.
Yeah. And my dad was a mechanic, and I consider that entrepreneurship. And it was nothing for somebody just to pull up out in our yard randomly. It was like, what's this noise? What's this noise? And like how they were able, entrepreneurs are able just to switch tone, like the tone switch, like just to be able to be focused and go left. And my dad was really, really good at that. He go from working on a lawnmower to a motor. And I was like, how do you even, so growing up, you develop those strategies and you learn those things indirectly. And I think that what makes great entrepreneurs. I mean, anybody can learn that. But when you are born and built into the craft, I think the outcomes are different. They're really different. So with all of that experience, how did you figure out what you want to be when you grow up?
This was a long journey, LaShawn, and a crazy one, because when I was enrolling in college, before you go, you have to kind of indicate on your application what you plan to do, like what you plan to major in. And my plan was to major in history. I was going to be a social studies teacher, a high school social studies teacher, and basketball coach. I promise you, this was my dream. Here's when it changed. Senior year, I know, this is crazy. People do not believe this. But senior year, we had this senior teach day. And I got to teach for Mr. Kovac, who was a social studies teacher. And I did lesson plans for the classes. I was deep into this thing. So the first class I had was awesome. They were interactive. We had this great time. My lesson plan went over really well. The second class could have cared less. They were not feeling anything I had to say. They were half asleep. And after the second class ended, I had, a free period. And I sat there and I was like, if I have all classes like the first class, this is right. That felt good. As soon as I have a class that's disconnected, I'm disconnected.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't guarantee that I will have all engaged students. So when I started college, I started off on a business management path because I'd already released this. Then done. One day. But, live and learn. You learn by doing. And so I was on this business management path, was enjoying those classes until accounting.
Ooh.
And then it was required 2 levels of accounting. And the first segment of that class got me out of there. At that point, I was far enough along in just having classes in college to know what had sparked my attention, what I was passionate about. What are the classes that I'm never going to miss a class? I enjoy the discussion. I do all the reading. And that's how I selected my major, which was African American Studies and Justice and Policy Studies. And then went on to get a master's in African American Studies. Have I done anything directly connected to African American Studies? No. But it has been an important part of my journey as a lifelong learner, as someone who values social justice, as someone who is now the owner of, a Black business, and I'm committed to championing underrepresented people.
Right. So how did all of that guide you into aligning with your film and television?
Okay, so this is fun. I lived all over the country after graduate school, and I landed in New York City at one point, and I was working at Columbia University. The job was great, and I had all of this free time to explore the city, take on new hobbies, and there was an ad for background actors. And I was like, wow, this would be so cool to just be on a set and be a part of it. You don't need anything to do it. You just have to get headshots and submit them. So I was a background actor for a show. It was an all-night shoot. It was super, super hot in New York at that time. It was like the middle of the summer. But this was a winter scene. So I had on a big leather coat. I had on a hat, scarf. I'm sweating.
Wow.
Sweating. It was miserable. And at the same time, it was the most amazing moment of my life. I was like, what is this? This is so cool. You don't know how a big production comes together until you are there and you see all the people collaborating to make this one moment happen. And the show was called New Amsterdam. You will not see me in this. I was like, the action was on one side of a subway platform. I'm on the other. You couldn't see me in the scene, but I walked up and down that subway platform like a champion. And at that moment, I was like, I need to do more of this. And so it was a journey from background acting to writing, producing, now directing, having the, production company and studio. Like, so it was this interesting journey that took place over like 20-some years now.
So tell me, I'm getting off track again. So tell me about each one of those pivots. How did that really come about, that pivot? Even though you're still lane-driven, because I think that's important, be lane-driven. But how do you make those little integral pivots in life?
So the first pivot was actually from higher education into acting full-time. And I picked the worst time to make this pivot. It was during the financial crisis. It was during the writer's strike. Like, it was crazy for me but I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was taking acting classes. I had an agent for commercials. I was just kind of like in the mode of it. But something wasn't resonating with me with acting. I knew I wanted to do film and television stuff, period. Like, that was it. But the acting, not so much. So I kind of made this departure from acting, but I had connected up with some guys who had a talent management company. And I just started working with them, learning what that was. They had linked up with a guy named Frank Callow, who's an independent film producer and director in New York. He was casting a project, and he asked if they could help with the casting. So I ended up being a central part of this casting because I was the only one in the group who'd ever been to a casting.
Wow.
On the other side.
Yeah.
So I knew how these things operated, and I'd also been to a couple workshops on how to impress a casting director. What do casting directors look for? So then I'm like just applying that information. And so we had this meeting with Frank where we talked about here are the people that we like and why. And I had detailed notes about all the actors who came in. So afterwards he said, I really liked your notes. Like, you're serious about your work. I would love to work with you again. And I was like, oh, cool. This is great. And at that time, Frank was working on a short film, and he asked me to be the script supervisor.
Wow.
I had no idea what that meant, but I was like, I'm down if you're down. So he invited me to be the script supervisor. And basically what I did the few days that we were filming is I would sit behind him. He's the director of the project. And after he said cut for each take, I would have on my notes what take it was, what scene it was, like all of that information. And then he'd say things like, I like the audio in this, but I don't like, this part of the scene. I like this. I don't like that. This was clean. This was great. So I'm listening to how he interprets what's good and what's not good. And I learned so much from that. The other thing I had to do was sometimes we'd have like a dinner scene and there'd be glasses out and people would take sips out. And I had to remember, like, where was that when we started the scene? Yeah. Or if we had the next take in the middle of the scene, like, kind of where...
Think about all of that.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I said, Frank, I appreciate this. I do not want to do this.
You feel like
not my jam. But it was so good because this was, again, the first time I'm behind the camera, understanding how all of it comes together. I didn't have any kind of conscious idea of how the pieces came together until that. And then from that point on, I mean, he liked the work that I did. So he invited me to continue to be a part of what he was doing. He had me at investor meetings. He showed me how to put contracts together. He showed me, like, I would review his scripts and give notes. I learned the structural pieces from him. He never asked me to sign an NDA. He never, kept anything from me. He was so open. And he was a great teacher and mentor, still is a great teacher and mentor. So I learned how to produce from working with Frank. And every time people ask me about the beginnings of this, I have to acknowledge him because he didn't have to, share those things with me. And we could have continued to work together over the years. But that was that next pivot. And then a next pivot is when I first started writing screenplays. And I was like, this is it. This is everything. But when you're a new writer, who cares? I thought someone would care. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. So I started producing like teasers and short concept pieces so that I could show my work beyond just the paper. Yeah. And so I learned how to produce, like on my, I learned from Frank, but then I also was activating what he taught me.
And you're all writing.
Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Los Angeles and did it again. And then I moved back here. And so on and on.
One of the questions that we asked each other in the staff meeting this morning was, what do we want to be when we grow up? You're the perfect exclamation point for, I just said this, and I just did this. And how you just put it all in the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one interview that I'm almost in, and I was like, what's the next question? But I can't stop listening because it's just you make it seem so easy.
Listen.
I don't know it's not. I know it's not, but you made it seem like so easy.
There were a lot of tears during this journey. A lot of tears, a lot of frustration, a lot of doubt, a lot of giving up, but then starting again. I mean,
yeah,
I love that it sounds easy now because I'm joyful about the experience. But there were some moments that I was just like, I don't know what to do next. Yeah, like this is not working. I've had those internal conversations. This is not working, but I can't leave it alone.
Right.
I don't know how to move forward.
Yeah. How do you keep that creative spirit, even in continuing your business or just in your writing or in the no's or in the sad times? How do you keep, because whenever I see you, I don't know how you practice it or whatever, but you just, Natalie, even when people say your name, they're like, yeah, I know Natalie. It's just the energy in it. How do you keep that spirit? How do you keep that creativity? Where does that come from? Because you was even smiling when you was like, it was a lot of tears. But
because I know there's an other side to it. You don't know it in the moment, but after you've had so many of these breakdowns, you can reflect and say, oh my gosh, well, this happened and I made it through that. So this will work out too. I like to prove people wrong. This is petty Nat talking, but this is real. So there have been times when people have told me no, or I've not gotten things that I feel like I deserved. And in that moment of like sadness, a switch turns and it's like, okay, let me show you.
Yeah.
And that let me show you has led me into some cool stuff.
I love that. Do you think any of this, or what is your whole thoughts about how you live in purpose?
So living in purpose is about, I think, constantly questioning yourself.
Yeah.
Saying, did this bring me joy? Did this feel right? I do a lot of, how am I feeling about something? Because I think that's a big indicator of if you're on the right path. And for so long with film and television, and now, developing social content, I've felt like, ooh, I like this. And then some things I do and I'm like, I might be able to make money with this, but do I like it? Do I love it? No. And so I try to steer toward the things I like and love, and then ease out of the things that are just like there,
We, Kirsten and I know everybody gets tired of me talking about Kirsten, but
we love Kirsten.
Yeah, she's not here. She listens to me. We talked a lot about being happy.
Yes.
And I think when you're in your lane and you're being happy, even the no's has a meaning. It has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a drive that's in it versus what I'm punching in and punching out. I'm going to work, I'm going home.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that best. It was like, it's okay when it's a no.
Yes.
What is that really for? What is that drive? I like how you said it. I'm not saying it how you said it, but I think that's important, what people really need to fully understand. When we seek purpose, and I'm not saying people don't have to work 9 to 5. I mean, evidently I do. But I'm saying when you seek purpose and you seek those things that make you happy, you're able to handle everything else. So let's go back to, let me get back on track. So tell me a little bit about when you graduated from college and you was working at Cornell University and student affairs. I love all of that, by the way. So tell the people a little bit about that.
So Cornell is a special place for me because I went to graduate school there. So I had an understanding of the campus. It's beautiful, brilliant people. My time at Cornell was just absolutely amazing. And so this is interesting about no's. This is a really important story in my journey. So I'd graduated from Cornell. I lived in a couple places. Then I went back with the intention of working there. So I'd applied for a position in, I want to say it was like December of 1 year. And got a phone interview, didn't get the position. So I was super disappointed that didn't happen, but that was fine. And so I asked the person who was interviewing me, and this was in residence life. So I asked the person who was interviewing me, do you have any tips? Do you have any things that I can do to best prepare for the next cycle of positions? So she gave me a few notes. I took those. I did what she said. I applied again. I didn't even get an interview.
Wow.
I sent a note. I said, I'm still interested. I'm moving back to Ithaca. Let me know if any opportunities come up. So a next few cycles went through of people getting hired. Nothing.
Wow.
Then I got a call. There was a late kind of resignation. Someone had gotten a job on the West Coast. They were moving out. They had the biggest residence hall on the campus.
Wow.
Biggest staff, biggest geographic footprint. This was a really important position. But because it was a late resignation, they would have typically offered this to someone who was already on the team, and they would have just moved them to that building. But training was about to start. They needed to get someone in. They didn't want to move people around. So they called the kid. So I go in, I get the position. It's a beautiful experience. It is the perfect building. I had the most amazing staff. Everything worked out. I became friends with the guy who got the position, the first one I applied to. And we led a student organization. We did a lot of things together. Super great guy. His building was in the middle of a construction zone. They were totally changing the layout of his part of campus, and his was the last older building standing in that space. And construction trucks would be making noise in the morning. His car would have dust all over it. It was hard for him to get out. There was just so much happening. It was a really challenging time for him. And he ultimately decided to move on to something else. And there was a moment I was sitting in his apartment and the noise from the construction was going on outside. He didn't have like really great parking at that time. And I remember thinking, I could have been here. So everything works out as it should.
Yeah.
All of those no's along the way helped me land in the building that I needed to be in. And his journey, even as he got that yes, that led to, a great year with students and, at the same time as all of this other stuff was happening. But he tapped into, once he left, something that he really enjoyed. He's a successful realtor now. And that was a career path he might not have taken on if all had gone well.
And you got the job. Right.
Everything works out. We can't see it in the moment. It just feels like I'm not getting what I want. But just allow for yourself to get what you need, what you deserve. What is the path to the next thing you need to be doing? And, it all comes together.
Those programs you were talking about that you did in student affairs, tell me how you was talking about you raised $4 million.
So this is the next part of my journey. When I got back to this region, I was the project director for the West Piedmont Workforce Development Board.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm
from West Piedmont.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Look, we need to talk.
Yep.
Look at how not only the outfits match up, but the journey.
The journey.
So I was there, and first off, I didn't even know what workforce development was until I was thrust into the position. But again, I'm game on.
Yeah.
Like, present me with the challenge. I'm ready. And so one of the things that I really, really, really enjoyed was youth programs. And
I was over youth.
Oh, okay. See, look at that.
Adult and younger youth, but go ahead. Okay.
What I love so much is for young people to have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Because I learned from doing. And so the workforce development program includes work experiences, on-the-job training, these doing kinds of activities. And so I was a part of writing grants for the Danville Summer Youth Program, which was a collaboration with the City of Danville, the Institute of Advanced Learning and Research.
Wow.
Goodwill, like several programs came together. Also, Guided Career Exploration Program, which was housed in Martinsville, and the Harvest Foundation partnered with Workforce for that. Now there's a youth build program that's in the region.
Wow.
That I supported with the grant writing for that. This was as I was transitioning out of the position. But, so cool to know that these dollars have a direct impact on young people. So really fun stuff.
It's amazing how this all worked together, because this is completely left. This is completely square.
We're on the way out of it. Let's go.
But, when I worked in youth, the hardest thing for me is to find those people to work with that were intentionally cared about the youth. Not had the job,
right,
but really cared about working for you, doing that whole mission. And to sit here with you and see all the work that you are doing when it's just talking about giving these kids a strong foundation as they step out into this world. I think that's valuable and that's important. And I challenge anybody who's working with youth now to reach out to you, because that knowledge and power don't go away because you're not in that field. I challenge them to work with you and see what that is about, because a lot of times that's just what's missing. I'm going to be honest. That's just what's missing. The grant money is there. The programs are there. It's the people that are intentional about the impact.
Right. You have to have a heart for it.
Exactly.
Because you are working with your younger self.
Right.
A lot of times. And your younger self was hard-headed.
Right.
And your younger self felt like she knew it all. And I was constantly met with, don't hold young people to expectations that you weren't able to live up to at that time.
Say that again now. Just say it. Just say it again. So
you really have to have a heart for it, and you have to have patience and understanding. And this is a major key. You have to listen.
Yeah.
Not just sit there and regurgitate what they've said. Actually hear what's underneath. Understand that someone not showing up could be connected to a lack of transportation that they may not have presented to you initially, or something larger or more challenging going on in their experience that you're not aware of.
Right. And I know I'm off track, because one thing about working with youth, and I know it's in your resume so we can talk about it, when you have someone who bring all of that to the table, and it's people that I could name that do bring that to the table, and it's organizations I can name that do bring all that to the table, when you write that grant as a grant writer or as your job or just grant reporting, it comes out in the writing. So that's why I feel, not even knowing, having read not one grant you ever wrote, that's where that $4 million come from. I'll put money on it. That's where everything that you talked about, regardless of your degrees, regardless of everything, when you wrote that grant, you was coming from a space of everything you just described. And I feel that not only just in who you are, but I can guarantee you, if I read one right now, I could tell your grant versus anybody else's, because that's always the missing piece. Well, a lot of times when we're working with the community is working with youth, it's the people that have the true heart for it. And nothing against anybody else. That's not what I'm saying. But I think people need to really understand, when you hire for positions, or you're looking for grant writers, or you're looking for people to be directly connected and doing that grassroots when it comes to youth, they need more people like you in those places.
And thank you.
Interviews like this give us the opportunity, the community opportunity, to see what that look like. So I say thank you for all that you've done, in addition to the $4 million, because I know that's probably paying people's salary and programs and activities, but also just to set the tone of what people can see of what success look like. So thank you for that. How does it feel providing for these young people now? Not when you was doing it, now.
It's great, because I still keep up with some of the people who are in the program and see them posting highlights of their accomplishments on social media. And I'm tickled. And these, not necessarily young people who were quote unquote successful in the program.
Right.
I have some that really struggled, who in their time found the path, and they're doing so well.
You just keep adding to this. Yay, I just want to be like you when I grow up. Tell us, how do you define entrepreneurship, and where does that drive come from?
Entrepreneurship is having a big enough head to wear 100 different hats. It is absolutely crazy. Anyone who decides that they want to open their own business, they're a little bit crazy. And that's great.
Yeah.
Because you're really going against what I think is a prevailing thought of, let me get in where I fit in and get some direct deposits.
Gotcha.
And I will tell you, because, I've bounced between, I have a traditional job, I won't. I'm running the business full time. I'm running it alongside of my traditional job. I've had a lot of different variations of this. Right now is the first time that I've ever relied on my business 100% for my income. That is scary.
Yeah.
It is like, week to week, I'm doing this like math in my head, figuring out what's my next step.
Yeah.
How do I need to direct the business? So being an entrepreneur is being able to think about 100 different things at once, wear all of those hats, and produce.
Right.
Where did I get that from? Definitely my dad, because I saw him do it real time. And I would say watching other people successfully run a business. So when I was in workforce, I worked for Ross Innovative Employment Solutions, and Sean Brenner is the CEO of Ross. She is one of the most graceful people that I've ever met. She was so good at remembering birthdays. I'm sure she had a calendar with all this in, but you're going to get a birthday card, you're going to get special notes and personal communication. This was like a large company, but she knew everybody by name. She would make you feel like you're the most important person in the organization. And I was so impressed with her and how she moved like that. And I said, I want to be that kind of leader in my company.
Yeah.
And so I try to activate that, and how I do what I do.
Yeah. We had our mornings on Main, and one of the young ladies who just started out with her own business on brick and mortar, like her business started out and brick and mortar all at the same time. I know. And she was talking about not being able to enjoy it like she wanted to because it was so hard. And she had to stay head down in the work. And I was telling her she still got to come up and figure out how to breathe, how to balance. When you're in those spaces, when you're doing the budget in your head, how do you still come up for air? How do you do that and not just stay head down, focused, whatever? And I know you talked about it a little bit with your husband, bringing in that balance. And she herself also talked about how her kids forced her to bring in that balance. Do you intentionally put that on your calendar, or do you say, okay, I've been holding my breath for 2 days? Like, what does that really look like? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, when they first start their business, like independent, no job, no anything, just doing that work, how do they supposed to know when it's time just to blow out, exhale, come up for air, go outside, lock the door, we're closed? What does that really look like? What has it looked like for you?
Mm-hmm. So I will say another key factor in me being able to come up for air and have balance is Dana.
Okay.
Because Dana, she is our communications guru at Rudy's Girls. I mean, she does a lot of stuff. Handles logistics. Like, I send a lot of things Dana's way, and I know she's probably like smiling and rolling her eyes at the same time when she gets an email from me or a text message. But she really supports me 100% so that I can do some of the things to move the company forward. And if I didn't have her by my side, this would not be what it is. So that's key. I think before I had the ability to hire a team member, honestly, this is the honest answer. Balance came when a breakdown happened and I got really sick, or I was just exhausted and couldn't take another step. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not what it's supposed to be. And then I had to figure out how to let go of certain things and to reset. But I will work until collapse.
Right.
You know, I don't advise that for anyone, but I know a lot of entrepreneurs have that energy, like, my name is on this, my reputation is tied to this, it has to work, and we will work until we get there.
And I see that in a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's why I asked that question. In an ideal world, what would that balance, what would that look like? Because I want them to know that it's not till you collapse. Like you said, you don't advise that. So what could they do? And I know this is off script or whatever, but what are some of those things that they could do to not be in a place of collapsing? And they struggle with that. Even if we give them the answer, some still going to do it till they collapse.
Right.
But I even do it now, and I'm still at the transition of working a job and entrepreneurship, and I still do it. And I was like, if you don't close that laptop
Right now,
I mean, you in the bed, like, close the laptop.
it's over.
Yeah, enough, you know. And for me to answer from my point of view, I've gotten better with scheduling on my calendar those moments where the alarm will go off, or I look at my calendar for the next day and I see it says breath, take a break. And I got that 2 hours in there. You know, Kirsten and I talk about take a nap. If you don't, you need a Kirsten or a Dana on your team. Just throwing that out there. You got to have them on your team. You can't have Kirsten or Dana. No, let that be no. But
Somebody like them.
That's more. But just scheduling it could be the simplest thing.
Right.
Just scheduling it. If you're that type of person, set an alarm to go off. I have a friend, Latasha. Oh, Lord. We'll be sitting somewhere random and an alarm will go off. And she was like, oh, I'll be back. And, you know, just something like that.
Yeah.
I was asking, is it anything in particular that you do that say, okay, this is an indication that I need to rest or take a break or breathe?
So, again, my husband will pop up.
Yeah.
And be like, let's go for a walk. And I'm like, I can't go for a walk.
Yeah.
But we'll go out, and I don't feel like I have the time. But during that walk, all of a sudden, I've got the idea of what I need to do next.
Yeah.
You don't think about how brilliance comes during breaks.
Yeah.
It doesn't come when you're like toiling and stressed out. It comes in that moment where you decide to take a nap, and you wake up from the nap and you're like, oh, snap, this is what I need to do. So the other tip, though, you have to get help. You have to rely on organizations in the community like River District Association, like Rise Collaborative, and you have to find your entrepreneur ecosystem and plug in, because those, or your chambers,
I love that.
Those organizations have resources and expertise to be able to resolve some of these problems. But you've got to release your pride.
Yeah.
Because if your budget is crazy and you don't want to show your finances looking raggedy,
right,
you might have to reveal that in order to get the support you need to improve it. But a lot of people don't ask for help, either because they don't know it or they're just too proud to go out and find that help.
Gotcha. I love that. You do a lot of work in the community. What does community work mean to you? Because those are those things that you don't have to do. I mean, right, it's what it is. You don't have to do. What does that community work mean to you?
It is about reinvesting what was invested in me. So coming back to this region after living all these different places was an important part of the journey, because my success elsewhere was built on a foundation that was established here. It was built on a foundation that was established by all the people who I encountered as a little person, who saw potential, who might have held me accountable if they saw me acting out of my character. All the people who, contributed to a scholarship fund that I might have received. who encouraged, who prayed for me, who did all of these things. Now I get to do that here. And so the community work is about seeing the bigger picture of how we all can positively impact whatever space we're in. It's not for everyone to do the things I do, but it is for everyone to find out what they can do, how they can give. It might be money. For some people, it might be picking up trash outside. It might be mentoring a young person. You have to figure out the thing that brings you joy that you can just reinvest, because then the world becomes this amazing place that we all dream of, we all deserve to live in.
Yeah.
When we all just do one little thing here and there.
So tell us what you feel like was a big impact in your life. What life event that you felt like was one of those big impacts on you?
So many things. Okay, I have a bunch of them, but I will share this one. This is a really interesting one. I was living in Los Angeles, and I had written my first book, and I came back to the East Coast to promote that book. My strongest network of supporters is here in this community and then in the New York area. And so I felt like I needed to be in this space to really promote that book. So I was back here doing that. And then I had written a web series that we wanted to film in New York City. So this was 2015. So through all sorts of creative methods, we were able to film this web series, or pieces of it, but not in, because it was a low budget, not in the way that we intended, but I was just like, we're pushing forward.
Yeah.
While that was going on, I was in financial distress. I've never been as broke as I was at that moment. I was couch surfing. Thank goodness for my friend Kimba Bloodworth, who we went to college together. She was living in Brooklyn. She let me stay at her place for free 99. Thank you. I was struggling financially, but I was pouring it all into the work. And our filming wrapped up right around the Christmas holiday season. So I drove back to Martinsville and I stayed with my mom during the holiday season. And it was just like, I was exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. I didn't know. I was excited that we were able to film this project, but there were so many things up in the air. That January, this is still a continuation of that Christmas holiday season, through a happenstance event, I ended up at a clothing store in Martinsville, VA Bespoke. And my now husband walked in the door. Listen, when I tell you he was cute, gosh, he was so cute. He had a little Virginia Tech hat on.
Oh.
And I thought, well, look at this cute. I thought he was a college student. Look at this. I never meet cute guys when I'm home. And so he was so cordial and kind, and he just offered to show me the community. And he's like known as a tour guide, an unofficial tour guide in the community. And so he, for like 2 weeks while I remained waiting to do some pickup shots in New York, I just stayed in town. And he showed me all these places. We hung out every single day. We talked every single day. It was just a match made in heaven. And then I had to get back to my real life as a film and television professional. And I went back to New York. We had some things that we needed to wrap up with the production. He drove back with me when I first went back, and we stayed in touch. He visited me on my birthday. I was in New York. That was March. Then I flew to Los Angeles because I still had the apartment there. I had to pack everything up, get everything sorted. He came out to help with that. And I imagined I would be living in New York. So that was the plan. I was going to live in New York. I was going to find a traditional job, get my coins back together while everything was happening with this project. And I went on some interviews. Nothing was really speaking to my soul. I remember one interview I left and I was telling him about it on the phone and he said, "There's no place like home."
Wow.
So I thought that was sweet, but I was like, bruh, home does not have a film and television industry. So yeah. But something clicked in me that said, give it a shot. Them heels clicked. And so April 2016, I made my way back.
Yeah.
And I've been here doing the doggone things since and creating the industry that didn't exist.
I love that. Oh, this has been the hardest interview I had to do. No. So, how would you continue to pass the baton? We talked about, doing the community work, but all of this stuff, being the first, because we didn't even touch on being the first, but starting something that didn't exist. How do you make sure that this becomes your legacy work and the baton is being passed? Because we talk about that in a lot of rooms, that everybody's got to figure out, dig for the baton, pick it up, clean it off, and then start back running again. Well, do you have a plan, or are you intentional in a way in passing that baton to keep this thing going?
So I am very intentional about that, because part of the mission of doing this here is so that creative people, and it doesn't matter if young or old, I don't care what their age, they have a space to create.
Right.
They have a home. They have access to resources. They have someone who is working on projects that they can connect to. So providing that space, if you want to do something in this field, there's someone you can look to say, oh, this person is doing it. I'd speak to young people, free 99.
Yeah.
People call me all the time to come. Please don't call me all the time for the free one. If you could throw some coins, and that'd be great too. But when organizations don't have the budget,
right?
They pay me in a delicious meal,
right,
and some swag they have in a closet getting dusty. That's all right. It's important to be able to give back in that way. If one person is in that room who is inspired to think they can do it here, mission accomplished.
Right. You talked a little bit about your book. Could you go more in detail about the books you've written and how you came about with the titles? And
okay, yeah. So the very first book, this was, again, I don't like to be told no.
Right.
I kept getting all this rejection from the film and television industry. I had these great scripts and concepts, and I was pitching out in Los Angeles. And I was just like, if somebody just experienced my writing, then I would be in the door. And I was like, I need to do something where people can experience my writing and there's no gatekeepers involved. And so I wrote the first book in 2015. It was called The Biggest Butt, B-U-T, Biggest Butt in the World. And it's all about the excuses that keep us from being our best selves. So that is like archived now. So you can't get the biggest butt unless you get it from somebody who already has it. So it's like a self-help personal development book. And that was the start. I really love putting that together. So then the next book is Metallic Dusty Rose, Poems About Life and Love. And I've always loved writing poetry. That's been a big release for me my entire life. And so I put this book together. And that was 2017, I want to say, when that was released. And the next book happened during the pandemic. So I continued to work in workforce development, and I was meeting all of these people who, because of the pandemic, they had lost their positions somewhere, their company closed. Now they're trying to figure out, reorganize. And they're like, you know what? I want to do this, or I've only thought about doing the things that I've always done, and I wish I could do something else because that wasn't fulfilling. And so I was just like, people struggle with figuring out what their purpose is. And so that next book, which I released in 2021, is from Unemployed to Unstoppable. It's a 30-day transformation guide. And so each day is an activity that helps you connect to your purpose, to plug in, to identify the purpose if you don't know it, and activities that you can do even if your experience is not that you're unemployed. Even though the title is about that, it's really about wherever you are in your life.
Right.
If you feel like something is missing, here is a step-by-step guide to figuring that out.
That's a good book club book.
Come on, start it.
I will. But okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I had to say that out.
No,
loud
I
so
need
we
you
can
to
get it
start the
started.
book club. Join the book club.
John, those are good seconds.
She's like, give me one more thing. And then the most recent book is Hometown Hustle, Simple Tips for Entrepreneurial Success. Hometown Hustle Guide, Simple Tips for Entrepreneurial Success. And it's also a tip-based book that has space in it for people to journal about their venture, to think about their idea, to know some starter steps. It's great for people who are at that first moment of starting the business, or who are ideating about a business, but they haven't locked in on a real plan. It gives you like the quick and dirty tips. And both of these guidebooks are written in a way that's very accessible. They're not intimidating at all. You don't feel like, oh my gosh, I can't get through this. It's made in an easy read format so people don't get bogged down. That they actually feel like they can connect to the work.
So that's 4 or 5 books. You said 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
How? When?
When?
How?
Well, writing is a part of my passion.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's during a meeting.
Yeah.
I have an idea. Let me scribble this down.
Yeah.
And then piece it all together.
And I just want young people to hear this and understand this. I still take it back. It's just so purpose. It's just in line, and it's not easy, y'all, but it becomes in a way that's just of a flow.
Yeah.
And post the kid, you got to be on a bulletin board. I mean, it's just how to do this work.
Let's find it.
Yeah.
Bulletin board.
The one on Riverside that spins so they can see it. Just throwing that out.
Make a phone call, LaShawn.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on happiness, and what has contributed to your sense of fulfillment?
Happiness, essential. That is, we were designed to be happy. We're not designed to be miserable.
Right.
And I think living a purposeful life is a key to happiness. I think also, there's a saying about some people see the glass half empty, some people see the glass half full. I'm appreciating the glass.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much is in it, you have a tool that can capture water. So once you have that tool, then you can figure out how to get water in it.
Right.
So seeing these underlying opportunities that could be hidden in plain sight, like being grateful,
right?
That's a super key to happiness. We will hyperfixate on the one thing that's going wrong and just beat that thing up and think about that thing all day long. We can't sleep because of that thing and miss the million things that are going right.
Yeah.
And it starts with, I'm here. Yeah. And so I'm here. I still have an opportunity to get it together. I still have an opportunity to turn it around. I still have an opportunity to move into the next phase of who I am. As long as you're here, there's a chance. So we have to lean on that.
I think that's the perfect segue to this next question, because everybody's talking about the North Main business quarter that we've now working on. And what should it be? What should it be named? The arts and culture district, the business district, Minneapolis or North Main. One of the things that everybody agree with, that it should have some type of creativity.
Yes.
That's in everybody's vision for that. And I love that. I love that. What can you see from your lens of possibilities for that space?
Oh, it's so good. It's so ripe with potential. When you start to pour into people's creative self, so many wonderful things come out. Young people connect to a therapy of sorts.
Right.
Being able to create and share their work. Well, people of all ages, not just young people.
Right.
And it may not be the people that you would think who are impacted by that. Just seeing that the city and the region values that part of who we are. So when I'm in the presence of art, and let me just be clear, my lane is writing and creating something on paper, and now I'm able to produce to facilitate it becoming a visual. My lane is not drawing. My lane is not painting. My lane is not sculpting. My lane is like not any of those things.
Right.
And so when people are exposed to it, it just brings so much joy. I love being in the presence of those things.
Yeah.
It inspires me, my writing, because I'm there. If you have a beautiful piece of artwork, or you're at a talk with an artist and you hear something that could change the course of your business, or inspire you to purchase a house, there's so many possibilities, because when someone takes the time to pour into their craft and it becomes a living, breathing thing, then it can give you life too.
Right. I love that. One question I always kind of end the show with is, what is your favorite word, a quote, a scripture, a mantra that you want to tell the people that gets you through the day or the minute or the second?
This is one of my favorites. I hold on to this all the time. It always seems impossible until it's done. So Nelson Mandela said that. And I hold on to that because there's been so many things that I felt like, this is impossible. And then when it gets done, it just proves that there are infinite possibilities, and we have to hold on to that and know that we are part of this beautiful continuum of creativity, of life, of innovation. And so it may not get done in your lifetime or mine, but it will get done.
There you have it. Natalie Hodge, Season 2, Episode 2, True North Speaker Series. Thank you.